Hi, Dr. Morey, Uncivilized Vitality. I want to talk about the 3 lost abilities today. So in my book, Uncivilized Vitality, Looking Back to Move Forward, I encapsulate civilization as sort of an aberration of nature. Nature is organized according to certain principles and rules, physics and whatnot. And we form human societies, which are consist of various cultures, which are geographically determined, subcultures, communities, families, and then down to the individual. Just as in biological terms, you are organized, ecosystems are composed of organisms, which are made up of organ systems, made up of organs, composed of tissues, composed of cells. So in a parallel sense, we are sociologically organized from the same way, individual out to society. If you want a healthy society, you have to have healthy individuals. And to have healthy individuals, you have to have the 3 abilities that are paramount in being a productive member of society and a productive individual. Since we've become civilized, 8 to 10,000 years ago, depending on how you define that, I go into that more in the book, you have 3 abilities that human beings don't have so much anymore, especially when you're civilized. We've lost them, and the purpose of the Uncivilized Vitality method is to restore the 3 lost abilities. And the first one is going to be capability. Second one, durability. And then adaptability. Right. So do a quick definition and point out why these are important to develop at the individual level so that societies will function properly and we can all be happier and healthier. Capability is simply knowledge and skills. So you have to know how to do things. You have to know how to take care of yourself. Let's talk at the individual level. You need to know things that are important. We're going to come back to that in a second. You have to be capable. If you're not capable, if you've been dumbed down due to an inefficient education system, if you're mired down in dogma and certain beliefs that hold you back, then your capability is going to be pretty limited. Durability basically boils down to resilience, right? The ability to restore or recover your competence level after an episode of severe or acute stress. And it could be the different types of stresses. We have a video on that somewhere. Let's say I break my leg. That's a severe stress of a physical or traumatic type. And the sooner I can recover back up to my competence goes toward our durability. The fortitude to sustain you through heat or cold or any other kind of acute or sometimes even chronic stresses that can affect you in a negative way. The easier you can put up with that, the more resilient you are, the more durability you have. Right? We see a very large lack of durability in the general population nowadays. The more civilized you get, the more comfortable you get, the weaker you become. So we're going to focus on not only developing certain capabilities, knowledge and skills, we want to develop our durability, our resilience to acute and or chronic stress. And then adaptability is your ability to function efficiently under stress. Right? And stress in this case, we talk about change. All of nature is changed. Ironically, we say this all the time, change is the only constant in nature. As nature changes and you're able to function efficiently during those stressful times, during those changes, and take advantage of those changes to your betterment, the betterment of your family or your community, the more adaptable, the greater adaptability you have. And in the Uncivilized Vitality method, we train these 3 lost abilities by going out into nature and learning different skills, gathering our knowledge, gathering our skills, putting up, being more resilient, because every time we go in nature, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It rains, it's wind, there's bug, there's cold, there's hunger, there's 1,000,001 little stressors out in nature that you don't have in the comfort of civilization. And unfortunately, that overarching comfort is making us fat and stupid and weak. Most civilized people are. I know that might sound harsh, but facts are facts. And then as we get out there and we learn to function under these varying levels of stresses and take advantage of changes that come up, our adaptability goes up. Once you've developed or continue to hone these 3 lost abilities, you will be happier and healthier because of it. Let's talk about what kind of knowledge are we talking about? Because there's a big push on YouTube now with survivalists and bushcrafting skills. Bushcraft's great. That's one form of knowledge to have. Healthcare and medical knowledge is another form of knowledge to have. Familiarity with higher math and physics, that's another type of knowledge to have. What I'm talking about is something more primitive, more primal, more uncivilized or pre-civilized. And that knowledge is how to stay alive. And there's a couple things that we're going to use in Uncivilized Vitality to focus on that. One is we talk about Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And these are needs that can be met. They're going to range from the physiological, then you go through safety, esteem and belonging, love and belonging, self-esteem, and then self-actualization. We'll get into those layers later. Right now, we're just talking about at the physiological level. If you can't take care of your physiological needs and your safety needs, you can't do anything else. If you outsource, as an individual, you outsource the meeting of those physiological and safety needs to another entity, to the state, to the government, to civilization, and you outsource those, and those things are taken away or interrupted in some way, you're going to die. So, or at the very least, be miserable and unhappy and become a victim of those that might have nefarious intent. So, what are your physiological needs? Right? So, oxygen. You're going to need to breathe and have clean air to breathe. And you're going to need to maintain your body's core temperature. You can't get too hot or too cold. And you have to prevent illness, disease, trauma, the loss of blood. You need physical safety. You need a safe place to sleep. Right? You need food and water. Right? And you need, because we're social animals, you're going to need some sort of companionship. Right? You need other human beings to talk to. So I'm just going to put this here for a minute. I'll explain that. So these are physiological needs. We need to maintain a pH balance. We need to maintain proper oxygen, carbon dioxide ratios. Heat is a big one. And these physiological needs that form the basis of Maslow's hierarchy of needs are going to correspond to what we call the rule of threes. And this will help you prioritize I'm going to put water up here with sleep just because it fits in here real well. Right? And this is not a hard and fast. This, when I say rule, this is sort of a general guideline. So we take these physiological and safety needs that form the basis of the pyramid that all individuals need to be able to meet. You need to be self-sufficient on an individual level. Otherwise, you can't help your family. Your families can't form healthy communities. Communities can't be part of larger subcultures and cultures and form effective societies. If any of these are deficient, we become too civilized, we outsource these things, and then, then we're stuck like we are today. So the rule of three says that you got about 3 minutes to deal with any interruption in oxygen, oxygenation, or loss of blood, any kind of trauma. That's got to become your first priority as an individual in any emergency sense or any day-to-day sense. You need to take care of your base physiological needs. Not worry about building a shelter or getting food or signaling for help even if you were lost. First thing you gotta do is make sure there's no interruption in the air supply and you don't have any kind of traumatic blood loss. And then going right along with those physiological needs is going to be core temperature. You got about 3 hours before that's your window. It's not saying, well, 3 hours and 1 minute and time's up and you'll die. But that's about it. That's about your window to either prevent hypothermia, treat hypothermia, or prevent or treat heat stroke. You got to maintain kind of pretty narrow range with your core body temperature. And if you're out, exposure is what kills most people lost in the outdoors. You got about 3 hours to deal with that. So you first make sure you're not injured. No interruption in breathing, no injuries where you're losing blood. Next thing you need to do is either cool down or warm up, control that body temperature. Then after that first 3 hours, you can start to attend to your other needs priority wise. You got about 3 days. You need water. You need clean, potable water. You need a safe place to sleep so that you can restore. Your durability will go down quickly if you don't have a chance to recharge your batteries and get some sleep and some downtime. So I put those on the same level at 3 days. Food, not a big deal. The average American, of normal body composition, normal anymore, you got 3 weeks before you really need to start to panic about food. Are you going to be hungry if you're an American who's been eating 3, 4, 5, 8 meals a day? Honey buns and ho-hos and Pop-Tarts and soda your whole life? Yeah, that might cause some trouble. And there are some blood sugar issues here that might cause some people some trouble. But if you're fairly adapted, follow our nutrition advice, and you're an occasional intermittent fasting practitioner and you eat fairly healthy, you're good for food. You don't have to whip out your pocket fishing kit and start setting traps and pulling fish and food out. You got up to 3 weeks before they would become like a huge emergency. And then we get into 3 months of isolation because humans are social, hypersocial animals. We do need to commune with each other or we'll start to suffer psychologically. But developing, we'll get down here, on the individual level, those 3 lost abilities, the Uncivilized Vitality helps train people, come in handy meeting these physiological needs. You are capable, you know some basic trauma and first aid care. You know how to, you have the capability to obtain potable water, clean drinking water. You have the know-how and the ability to effect control and regulation of your core temperature. You have the durability to put up with these things like the hunger pangs from not eating for 5 days while you try to fish and pull something out to eat. You have the capability, the adaptability to move with any changes that come. You might have found a nice, warm, dry place to sleep, and then when it rains, you find out that area floods and becomes kind of boggy and is covered in insects. You might have to adapt and be able to change. So, I know it seems like a mismatch, and I do just ramble on these. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is based on our physiological and our physical safety needs. You can use the rule of threes in order to prioritize which needs to meet first. And if you go out into the wilderness with us and practice being in these situations, when you can always retreat to the comfort of your civilized home afterwards and then regroup and rethink, you will start to develop or reclaim those 3 lost abilities, become a little less civilized, and hopefully be happier and healthier as a result. If this information is at all interest to you, leave some comments below. Check out our meetings, check out our events, try to come with us, and maybe even look into supporting our charity, the Uncivilized Living Foundation, whereby we take groups and populations that wouldn't normally be able to get out in the outdoors and enjoy all the benefits of being outside. Children with handicaps, depressed socioeconomic backgrounds, special needs, spectrum disorder individuals, and even vets with PTSD. We organize these events and provide guides and scouts to take them out so they can start developing their lost abilities in a safe manner and enjoy the outdoors. So what else? Subscribe to the channel, share the channel, and that's it.